Good evening, change makers. Sandra Madaffrey here. I'm very, very excited to bring you another expert interview. And tonight, I'm very excited about the guest that we have. We have Nural Seker here, and she has written an amazing book that I have actually had the absolute privilege of reading already. And what the message, I'm not going to tell you too much about Nural. She's going to be able to tell you all about herself in a moment. But the thing that I did want to comment on is that she is bringing up a subject that I think we really all need to listen to. So we've all known for many, many years that the education system is very broken all over the world, not just in Australia. And I think you would agree with that, Nural. And there are a few things that Nural brings up in this book, which I think it's really important for everyone to hear, because it's not what we all think. And some of the suggestions that she gives us in the book will bring a completely different perspective on how not just our children should be taught, but how our teachers need to be, I'm not going to say taught, but how our teachers need to learn what's needed from them. Because as we know, teaching is quite a full-on job, and it's something that, you know, our teachers really need guidance and support, and I think there's a massive lack of that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Nural. Nural, I'd like you to just let us know first and foremost a little bit about your background, because I'd like people to know why you are absolutely an expert in this subject. So over to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Sandra, for that great introduction. So I have been teaching for about 18 years now in the secondary system. For those of you who, some of you tuning in might know my face around. I might have seen you around the school in the past. So about 18 years I've been teaching. I have been trained as a maths, physics and science teacher. That's my background, is maths and science.
Just the light subjects, eh?
Yeah, just the light subjects. Right. And I actually decided to write a book about the education system. So I had, like a lot of people, I had a little bit of a turning point during COVID. I have been teaching for about 18 years. And over that time, during those 18 years, I've had many different roles in a school. My favourite role, to be honest with you, is being in the classroom, dealing with the people and dealing with the kids. But also I've enjoyed coordinating, which is where I deal with the kids, their families, their behaviours, their issues, all sorts of different things that can crop up in a young person's life. So I've done that for probably going on about 8 years. I think I've been doing that in there. So I actually started writing this book a couple of years ago. I started writing it during COVID when, like a lot of people, we were all stuck at home. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us were reassessing the way things were being done and why are we still doing things the way we're doing them when it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So I started writing this book because I actually started thinking more and more about what makes a good teacher a good teacher, what makes a good student a good student, but what is it about them in particular? Because a lot of the times you can walk into a classroom and you can see when a student or a class full of students are actually engaged with the teacher and what they're saying. And the teacher's no idea why that's the case. They're just doing their job. They're just walking into the room. But straight away, the kids can almost just sit back, look and listen and, you know, really engage with what's going on in the room. But then there's all kinds of teachers that have to work that little bit harder. They still do a brilliant job, but they have to work that little bit harder to hold the attention of the kids. And then there's the kids who actually have to work hard to understand what the teacher's actually saying. They have to think hard. They have to imagine hard. They have to try and learn hard about what they're actually doing. So I feel like what I've actually come across is the actual secret sauce, if you like, with what it is. Like, can we bottle it? And where does it come from? So to start with, my book is talking more about what is happening within our initial teacher education courses, what they're currently being taught, how they're currently being taught, how much time they're currently spending inside our school systems, because it's a lot less than most people realize while they're learning to be a teacher. And then I branch onto what the teachers, the initial teacher education courses should be teaching them, which is linking the mind and limiting beliefs and things like that into the course, and having an awareness of what a person is thinking and feeling inside of a classroom is not always what's actually a teacher is picking up on and what's actually happening in the room. Now, that can come from the student, that can come from the teacher, that can come from anyone inside the classroom. There is a whole shift that needs to actually start happening within our education system with regards to linking how our results are linked to what we believe inside the classroom. And I'm not saying we need to stop teaching the core subjects. We need to keep the maths, we need to keep the science, we need to keep the English, the literature, the PE, the humanities and music, the arts, all of them. We need all of them. But what we don't have is we don't have any facilitation of creativity to be able to explore the concepts inside the classrooms. Teachers don't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
So that's really the heart of where we're heading is we need to get the kids creating and using the knowledge that they're being taught inside the classroom to create something new.
Yeah, 100%.
No matter how big or how small.
Yeah, I agree. With over the last couple of years, as you know, Nural, I've been, a big advocate of taking things like NLP into schools, not all the concepts of NLP, but some of the concepts of NLP for the kids and for the teachers to actually understand the way the human mind actually operates a little bit different. And it's constantly something that is an ongoing battle. And, the education stops it all the time. And when you said before, teachers don't get a lot of time in the classroom, I don't know if I've told you this, but I actually was going to teachers college and I actually did do some rounds, and then I did leave and I never became a teacher, but I was actually going to teach all the commerce subjects in high school. And as a very young graduate, you go into a school and there's not much time, and you're supposed to just have a couple of years, a couple of rounds, and then you're out in the school with these kids and you're not taught any of the basic skills of the interpersonal skills, I'm going to call them. I don't even know what to call them. I think you describe them really well in the book.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's interpersonal skills, and it's also got a lot more to do with more so to do with it's a combination of personality, it's a combination of interpersonal skills, and it's a combination of the experiences each individual has had inside the classroom in their own lives. Because whatever experiences they've had or whatever feelings they think they've conjured up, regardless with to what they are experiencing at that instant in time, it's always a reflection of what someone has actually said to them in the past. I hear it all the time. Oh, I'm so crap at maths, miss. My mum was crap at maths, so I'm crap at maths. I can't do it. Well, who says?
Yeah, it's all the limiting beliefs. And
all the limiting beliefs.
On from when they're kids. And a lot of people don't realise that our kids, as we know, they don't really have a conscious mind until they're about 6 or 7 years old. And then when they have the conscious mind, the critical faculty kicks in, so they distinguish between fact or fiction. But until that time, they don't have one. So if they're hearing things like no one's good at school in our house, no one's good at maths in our house, they take that on. And unfortunately, it is something that I feel 100% is missing in our education system. And I think it's amazing. I, as you know, I got very emotional when I read the book because of, you know, finally someone's talking about this, you know.
I know,
you know, for us to listen, because, you know, we're having little grandkids growing up. You know, I don't want my grandkids to experience what I know my kids experienced going through school. You know, so we have to really make this aware, and you're right, it has to start with the teachers. And I'm just flabbergasted by the fact that you know, we've had some coaches, some people that I know that I've trained that are doing this outside of the school system, because we can't get it into the school system, so parents are having to go outside of the school system, which I think wouldn't it be great if the education department would pay for some of these people to go into the school system and teach this.
And I absolutely like that. That's really the heart of where I'm coming from. Is it's an acknowledgement, because there is a shift in the paradigms and the mindsets which is going through the schools at the moment, with teachers who are becoming more aware of the conscious unconscious connection, and even with students who are becoming more aware. Believe it or not, they're getting a little bit more philosophical about things. They know the conversations you can have in the classroom, you kind of just step back and go, wow, where did that come from? It's really, really interesting. You can get sidetracked really easily sometimes, but there's no acknowledgement of that outside of the classroom at that instant in time. There's no acknowledgement of it in our initial teacher education courses. There's no acknowledgement of it from the curriculum. You know, we've got a standard set that we need to follow, and you need to follow it. It needs to be done. You're going to spend X amount of weeks on this topic, and then you're going to assess them, then you're going to move on, and you're going to spend the next amount of weeks on the next topic, and just go through the motions and just keep filtering them through. You know, it's almost like we are producing nothing but linear growth and understanding in the way a student's mind is taught. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of them who are in school at the moment who are just going, I cannot wait to get out of here to do what I really want to do and what I'm really interested in. So why can't we have a little bit of time set aside in our curriculum at schools, whether it's once a week or once a fortnight, or, you know, there's a week at the end of something, at the end of a term, where you go, you know what, let's just spend a couple of days just investigating. You know, it's still going to be teacher guided a little bit, but let's just investigate where else we can take this issue, or where else we could take this problem, or what else can we bring in to solve this kind of problem. And having that flexibility has totally been robbed of students, and has totally been robbed of teachers, which means that teachers are walking into the classroom without having the same level of enthusiasm they might have had 10 years ago, going, oh my God, I was working on this resource to take to this particular class. I can't wait to try it out. Because we're walking into the classroom half the time going, what do I need to do? I need to do this topic. Let's get it done, because I have to move on. I have to go forward. I have to do this. And any parent will tell you their kids are left behind, or they're going forward, but it's all linear. It's all in a straight line. There's no broadening out, going anywhere. So,
you know, one of the things I've noticed you talking about on, I think, LinkedIn lately has been the fact that there's a teacher shortage, right? Something around a teacher shortage. Now, I was just, you know, thinking about that the other day and watching you, and I'm thinking, I wonder whether if we brought in some different, okay, inverted commas, right, ways of teaching kids and different understandings, whether that would encourage more people to get into the school system.
Possibly. Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
You know, because I just sort of sat there and thought, you know, you know, I mean, you've done my NLP training as well, and you know how we teach all about, you know, we look at another person and we
Yeah.
don't make any judgments and stuff like that, and you know, everyone's doing the best they can with the resources that they have, and we all filter differently. And I wonder whether teachers would taught stuff like that, that would be more inclined to go into a classroom, and if, you know, little Johnny's in the corner playing up, looking at little Johnny and thinking, what's actually going on for
What's
little
going on? Yeah.
is
Yeah.
I'm sure most kids don't go to school every day thinking, let me see how much I can annoy my teacher today. I'm not saying all of them, there might
Possibly
be
some of them with a certain type of teacher,
right?
but
But
yeah, no,
even those kids, I don't believe that any kids.
No.
And by the way, we're getting some messages. Good job, love this. So thanks to the guys that are watching this live. I don't think anyone is inherently bad.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
I think the resources, you know, even the kids that might be a little bit what we consider naughty in class, I think there's a problem there. And, you know, I'm going to tell you from me, I used to get into trouble all the time, right? Up until about grade 2, until it was realized that I actually couldn't see the blackboard.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't see. So, you know, but unfortunately, as you said, we look at these kids linear and we miss out on looking at what else could be going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's many of kids who, like, I've had the conversations recently with some of my students, that because I'm still teaching, some of the students in my classroom, you know, obviously I'm teaching maths, which, you know, for a lot of kids, there is that initial barrier of why am I learning this? And, you know, there's a section in my book about the typical responses I might give to a student like that. But even some of the kids, I'll look at them and I'll go, if you're not focusing on me and what I'm teaching, what are you focusing on?
Exactly.
And their mind is off somewhere else, creating something else or thinking of what else they can do when they get home. And it's all an expression of what they really want to do. It's all a desire that is coming out. So it's almost like we're putting shackles on them almost a little bit, and the shackles on their minds at school, like, okay, you have to learn this now because this is at a year 8 level, or this is a year 9 level. This is where you need to be at and you need to get there. And sometimes they're dreaming of what their life is going to be like in the future and what they're going to do.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Because some of the most successful people that I know in this world are high school dropouts. I'm not advocating. I was a uni student, right? So there you go. So I'm not advocating this, but I think there's just a misconception of what we believe success to be for our kids.
Yeah.
And I think that would be quite sad because, you know, you get these young kids and they're just so full of enthusiasm, and then we beat it out of them. There's no other way to say it, because they have to conform to what we believe society to be. And I think, and I think your book really, really, you know, brings up that point that we need to really start looking at our kids and looking at them as individuals. You can tell I'm really passionate about this, right? Looking at them as individuals. So I want to ask you, Nural, let's put it right out there, right? What are you hoping to achieve with this book?
My vision for the book, my vision is to change the way teachers are being taught at universities. I mean, they still need to learn, you know, the styles of teaching and learning and things like that. They still need to learn behavior management and things like that, although not much time is actually spent in universities on that. But what I would really like to see, as far as universities go, is to have a longer time for those teachers to go spend in a school. They need to be following and shadowing and learning from the right kind of teacher in the schools. And there's a lot of them out there. I'm not saying there's none out there. There's a lot. Even at my school, there's some brilliant teachers at my school. But the time they spend inside a classroom is not long enough. They're not exposed to the different types of scenarios enough. They're so focused on just getting through the hoops of passing through uni. So that's one thing. And I'll also say that the universities are not unaware that that's the case. That they want their undergraduate students in schools. They would prefer them to be in there longer. You know, that they're not ignorant of the fact. It's just there's this mismatch between what they can fit in, what the schools can work with, and what the government is prepared to support, I suppose, with regards to funding of initial teacher education as well at a federal level. So that's one thing. I would like to see more time for undergraduate teachers inside schools for longer. They also need to have another module almost incorporated into their initial education while they're learning at uni. And the module would be linking the conscious unconscious mind a little bit, limiting beliefs, where they come from, you know all about that, Sandra, and you know, and how to work around it. And I'm talking about that with students, but also with the teachers. I can't stress to you enough how much teachers are overlooked with regards to how well of a job they aren't or are doing inside a classroom. And I can't tell you how much it can affect a teacher's self-confidence inside a classroom.
Yeah.
And do you want your child being taught by a teacher who has a deep-seated belief that, oh my God, everyone hates the system, everyone hates teachers, I don't have support from, you know, the broader community with regards to the job that I'm doing. So how can the children I'm teaching value their education enough if society doesn't value it enough?
Yeah.
It's just this whole vicious circle, and that just goes on and on. And we need to stop it. And it needs to start at the universities, and then we need to deal with the teachers currently in the system there. Yeah. We need to give them some love, you know, we need 100%. To
100%. I've always said, you know, and teachers being one of the profession, it's just not valued enough. It really isn't. When, you know, they've got this is our future, that these people, and it's just not valued enough. So what I'd like you to tell us is how, and I know you have different support systems and that. So let's start with maybe teachers and then go into parents and students and that. How can you support, if there's a teacher watching this, because this is going to go live everywhere like I do with everything, with all my other videos that I do. If there's a teacher listening to this, and, you know, we'll make sure we get all the links from you so that they'll go in the podcast and on YouTube and on the Facebook group, because as everybody knows, when I do something, I do it very efficiently, so it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we'll get some links, but how can you support teachers first and foremost?
Yeah, so good question. Oh, the first port of call, to be honest, Sandra, I actually think it's my book, because if you really want a deep understanding of where I'm coming from, you got to walk a minute in my shoes, and you've got to see things through my eyes a little bit, as someone who's been in the education system for 18 years or so and has had roles in dealing with those students. But I've got 2 kids of my own at school. I've got one in high school right now, you know, and I've got one going to high school next year. So I'm in the same boat, but I'm constantly changing my hats between mum and teacher when I'm walking through there. So it's tricky, and I get it, you know, I get how hard it is for even families to even just focus on what's going on with school, because there's been plenty of times my kids have let things slip that I've totally missed. It's just the way it is. So my book, definitely for teachers and for parents and for anyone really who's you know, got an interest in education, is probably the first port of call. And because I'm still working, it's probably, I probably need a little bit of patience with this one, But I am working on courses designed for teachers and designed for parents as well. One solely for parents to deal with how you can help your child with using language yourself to encourage them to explore what they really want to do and create their own future and design their own pathway. Okay, so that's the first thing. So that's like a course and use of that language, a little bit of the NLP, a little bit, all, you know, my experiences all thrown into one. I can't pinpoint one experience, which is kind of all these ideas have come from. It's a culmination of everything. So, and same with teachers. So I've got another course, I'm designing on the side too for teachers as well, which I'm intending to offer at the start of every term for once a week, just running for about 8 weeks or so. And what I want to see is a shift happening in the language that the teacher's using with their own students in the classroom, and then seeing the effects on the students in their classroom in that 8 weeks, because you'll see it. You will start to hear the different language that the kids are using in the classroom. I even have some of my kids, will say something and then I'll say something back, and they'll stop and they'll pause and they'll go, no, okay, it's me. Just stop it with your psychobabble, miss. They'll just, they'll just go off, and they'll realize that it's only themselves that are holding them back. So that's, those 2 courses. But, as a little bit of a taste, look, I'm happy to have some mentoring or anything on the side there as well. So all that can be booked through my website, which I know you'll pop out, Sandra. So yeah.
So I'll make sure my VAs get those websites and links on everything for us, and you can pop it in the group straight away. But I want to thank you so much. I know this isn't so much around business, but you know what? I've got a lot of business owners that are parents. Yeah. And you know what? And I say it all the time, in order to be able to look after your business, the rest of your life needs to be in order too. And if this takes some of the stress off, worrying about your kids or what you do with your kids, but also too some of the language and things that we use. It's not, I always say it's not just language just for the kids or language just for the teachers and stuff like that. This is everyday communication skills that we learn, and interpersonal relationships between everyone. So good stuff. Well, thank you for being here. We'll make sure we have the link to your book somewhere. I highly recommend it, guys. You have to read this book. Like I said, I got highly emotional when I was reading it. And there's a really strong message that I really think, if you really care about our kids, if you've got kids, it's really something that you have to listen to, because something has to shift. So thank you again for being here, Nural. I really appreciate it. And thanks, guys. We will be back next week with another interview. Bye for now.